Welcome back to the Digital Skills series, where we will start to bring together a multi-page presentation using InDesign. Now, the next couple of live demonstrations we will go through some pretty simple steps and just show the basic functionality of InDesign. So it gives you a start, but you'll keep developing your skills in InDesign as you use it more and more. Now, as per the previous instructional, it is important to get some idea about where you're heading to with the presentation and setting up I guess a general strategy for the template. So in the two-page report that we're going to produce, we're going to set up the two A3 pages and establish a set of layouts and guidelines so that on the first page we can insert some diagrams, a bit of text, a large image on one side, and then focus on drawings and again a secondary bit of text on the second page. So I'll just minimize that there for now and we'll launch InDesign. Now, InDesign is available on the Zelman-Cower lab and in fact any of the EAT faculty computer labs throughout any of the labs in the faculty. So we're going to create a new document. So through the splash page we'll just launch document and we get a new document opening palette. So the page size we're going to set at A3. So there's the A3. And we'll set the orientation for landscape or horizontal, which is that one there. Now we'll set the number of pages at 2 and we'll click off the facing pages for now. You'd click that on and off if you've got, I guess, multi-page documents or, say 3, 4, 5 pages, and you can see the left and right hand side side by side on the InDesign work plane, but we're going to tick that off so we'll see just one page at a time. We'll go OK. There was a little glitch there, I'm not sure why that was. And here we go, there's our document. Now we can zoom in and out in the workspace by using the Control plus and minus key. So I'm just going to go Control minus so you can see the 2 pages in our workspace. So this rectangle you see there is our A3 sheet of paper. This is the pasteboard. We can sort of dump in bits of source material. It's kind of like putting it on your desk beside you, and then we can pull in stuff into the sheet as we need it. Now, one of the first things I'm going to do is just set the preferences, because often using the preferences from a new document will pull in the standard default, which often with these American programs means that it's in inches or other settings. So we're going to go to the Edit pull-down menu, and as you can see, the overall workspace, it looks a little bit complicated on the surface, but the general arrangement is very similar to other Adobe applications like Photoshop and so on, where you get a series of sort of button tools down the left hand side, I guess a floating palette or a palette at the top, and this keeps changing according to what tool or what menu you pull down. So this is more of a contextual tool palette, and on the side we've got some extra palettes that control, I guess, larger scale things like layers, pages, and so on. Now back to the preferences. So in the Edit pull-down menu, right down the bottom, we have Preferences. Now what we want to look at is the units and increments. Let's see what that is. So let's just change everything to something that we can understand. So let's do it in millimeters, so that the ruler is both in millimeters and we'll put the stroke in millimeters here as well, and we'll go OK. Now that won't necessarily change anything, but at least any changes that we make we'll be able to understand what's going on. And you'll notice that the ruler down the sides is now in millimeters, which is also much easier to understand. Now what we're going to do is set the border of the page. Now most printers will not print to the absolute edge of the page, so you do need a bit of clear space around the side, but perhaps we don't need quite as much as what's shown on here. So I'm just going to go into the layout pull down menu, margins and columns, and I'm going to adjust all of the margins down to 10 millimeters, and I'm going to click this link so all of the top, bottom, left and right margins are all the same, all 10 millimeters, and go OK. Now you notice here, if we look at the top and the bottom, they are actually now different. Now the reason for that is we can adjust things separately on one page compared to the other. So look, I'm just going to undo that, and you can see it goes back. Now if I wanted to adjust both of these at the same time, what I want to do is to go to the master sheet. Now the master sheet is kind of the template that all the other sheets or the children that come off this sheet refer back to. So if we are into the master sheet, remember it's that little pull down menu down the bottom here, A master, we go again layout, margins and columns, we'll go 10 millimeters, click the link button, go OK, and you'll see that it's adjusted it in the master sheet. But more importantly, when we go back to our sheet 1 and 2, both of them now have the same margins around the outside. So it's important, anything that you want to apply to each sheet in terms of a set out or layout, it's important to do that in the master to save just inconsistencies between pages in a multi-page document. Now what we are going to do is set up some guidelines to replicate our general pattern of things for the based on the previous instructional. Now I am going to go back into the master sheet to start setting up the template, because there will be some parts of the template that will be universal. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to pull a guide so that we divide this sheet in half. Now to pull a guide in, I just go over to the rulers over here and hold my left mouse button down and just drag across, and you can see I've pulled a guide to me there now, and I'm going to pull that into the middle of the page. Now the page, an A4 page is 420 wide, so to put one right in the middle we need to pull that into 210. So that guide is now exactly halfway in that sheet. Now I can double check or fine tune that by clicking on it, and up here in the context menu I can punch in a new value, let's say 190 millimeters, enter, and then that will move the guide. Now if I click off that, it turns it into a light blue. Now if I click onto it again, that makes it live. I can come up here, go 210, press enter, and then it goes back into the middle. Now a few other things to note. If you look at the different palette menus down the side here, one of the ones that I think are very important to have active are the pages palette. So you can pull up the pages here and you can see the number of pages we've got active there, and also this links bar. So when we start to get into sort of pasting or placing images into InDesign, this is where we manage those linked documents. So that's the sort of the start of our basic template. And now I'm just going to pull in a couple of extra template lines through here. So the height of the of an A3 sheet of paper will be 297. So if I wanted to divide this into thirds, now I will have, just quickly looking at my calculator, 270 millimeters less 20, so that means I've got 277 millimeters between these two pink lines here, which is the top and bottom of my sheet. So divide that into 3, that gives me approximately 92 millimeters or 92.3 millimeters as a division of space. So including this 10 millimeters, I'm going to set this first horizontal one at 102.3 millimeters. Enter. And I'm going to set another one at 102.3 plus 92.3, which will give me 194.6. So I'm going to go 194.6, enter. And so we've got the basic setup of a very simple, I guess, composition of center and tripartite through there. Now I'm going to leave it there, and we'll come back to this document in the next video, and we'll put a more fine grain pattern over the top of this of grids, and we'll start to put in a bit of text flow and position some images. So check back, and thanks for listening so far.